like a lot of people, I studied law at university, and I did that at Oxford, and then after that went and qualified as a solicitor, so followed a fairly typical route, but having qualified as a solicitor, decided it wasn't really for me, office work of that sort, so I then went for the change into university teaching. So this is my 25th year at Warwick, so I joined in 1999. That seems quite a long time. My motivation, I suppose it was the positive attraction of teaching, really. I really enjoy working in a group and enthusing young minds. So I think it was positive on the whole, but also I think practicing as a solicitor, it turned out, was not what I wanted to do. So a bit of carrot and a bit of stick. So I've written a fair amount on trust law, and I think what inspired me to do that was just the teaching necessity. So I do believe that good teaching will be led by research, and actually that good research can be inspired by teaching. And that was for the first 15 or so years of my teaching career at higher education. And then more lately, so probably the last 15 or so, or even more, I've been more focused on law and its relationship to the humanities. So a couple of the modules I teach now are the art of advocacy, which is focused on rhetorical performance, and another one on Shakespeare and the law. So I'm really interested in the way that lawyers perform and how they use language and how they play with language. I suppose that would be a way of summarising that. My teaching philosophy, in a word, would be imagination, not to determine what the students have to think, but let them think about questions, challenges, and to explore and use their imaginations and also their creativity. I think a lot of students feel they have to leave that at the door of the law school and all sit in rows and look forward to the lecturer, but I prefer to get students up and standing up and moving around and engaging, and also exploring, if they can, some of their artistic talents and how they might relate to the law. So to make it more engaging and more imaginative, it keeps me interested in it after many years, and I think the students seem to enjoy that hands-on approach. So these methods that I use in class, I've also used them in some drama schools. I've used them at the Royal Shakespeare Company. Even later today, I'm going to a boys' school where they have an acting company. I'm just going to bring some of these methods to them. And that's the sort of thing that keeps me interested, is the workshop, working with groups. And I learn an awful lot from that. Every time I engage with a group, I learn a lot. And yes, it leads into publications and writing. So I tend to write for the literary academic press. I've got one here. This is Shakespeare in the Law, and it's actually out just last month with OUP. And I do, yes, write for the literary academic press as well as for the legal reader, but actually more so for the literary approach, but with a legal focus. Warwick Law School's law in context approach, I think, is fantastic, because it gives such a range of possibilities for people to interpret what context means. And I think I would go along with a lot of what people would say about what context means, but for me there's an added aspect, or a different aspect, which is the fact that we're all artistic people, we're all creative, we all have our interests in the arts and performing in some way or other. And I think that law can be seen in a performative context as something that lawyers and judges do. So without being disrespectful, in a true sense, then lawyers and judges are sort of making it up as they go along. We know that because they argue both sides of an argument, and even when the case is decided in a court, it can be appealed the other way, and then again appealed the other way at the highest court. So it's always a negotiation, it's always a performance, it's a working with material, so it's a craft as much as anything. And yes, I think that's how I like to look at it, because that is hands-on, that is engaged, it is a way of bringing your creativity to the law. For me, that's the context, because the context is our broader humanity, our broader set of interests and artistic skills. So all my research is interdisciplinary at the moment. Sometimes I will just write about trusts as an English legal concept, but not very often. I'm interested in trust in other countries. But my core research, which is law and the humanities, and I co-founded a journal with that title, my core research on law and humanities is really predicated on the idea that we take the humanities disciplines seriously and look at law through those lights. So it's not a case of imposing law's ideas upon the arts and humanities, but rather learning from them. And some small evidence of that is, as I say, I tend to write for the literary academic press, and to be taken seriously, of course, by another discipline takes some humility, and you make mistakes on the way, but when you get there, you realise your interdisciplinarity is not shallow, but it is actually sincere, and you're not visiting another discipline so much as working with it.